Hey everybody, today we are going to talk about Wayson Choy's novel, The Jade Peony. We are going to examine this story through a feminist perspective, and we are going to discuss Wayson Choy's incorporation of feminism into his novel. Many people may be asking, what is feminism? Feminism is a range of political movements, ideologies, and social movements that share a common goal: to define, establish, and achieve political, economic, personal, and social equality of sexes. This includes seeking to establish educational and professional opportunities for women that are equal to those for men. Feminist movements have campaigned and continue to campaign for women's rights, including the rights to earn equal pay, to receive education, to have equal rights within marriage, and to protect women from rape, sexual harassment, and domestic violence. The Jade Peony is set in the late 1930s and 1940s when people in Canada were devastated by World War II and the Depression. This was a period when gender inequality was very significant. Women were treated very unfairly compared to men in this era, and it was very clear that there was a huge power imbalance present at the time. After reading The Jade Peony, it became very clear that Wayson Choy wanted to explain the difficulties of being a woman and what a woman occasionally experienced, such as abuse, being treated like objects, lack of education compared to men, and as well as how men's opinions and development were more valued than women's opinions and development. An example of the abuse of women in this novel is when Popo, the grandmother of the children in the novel, told her story about when she worked as a slave for a wealthy family back in China when she was younger and the abuse that came with it. Choy wrote, "The rich Chin family who owned Popo were used to wielding the whip and bamboo rods as freely on their 14 servants as on the one in pigs." With this quote in the novel, Choy is expressing the abuse that women had to go up against. Choy is modeling women as servants in a household who were told what to do occasionally. Women needed to obey rules and orders, otherwise they would be abused and punished freely, just like meaningless objects. Choy shows the imbalance of gender roles, as men were the people to look up to for instruction and orders, whereas women were the people that obeyed those instruction and orders without any flaws. Women had to be servants because society believed that it was one of the few things that women were capable of compared to men. Another quote that shows inequality of power between men and women was when Choy wrote about the war between the Japanese and the Chinese. During this time period, the Japanese invaded China and were conquering parts of China they invaded, where they manipulated Chinese citizens and families and killing many Chinese people out of free will. In the novel, Choy wrote, "The Japanese army were burying people alive, women and children." Here this shows the limited amount of power that women had, as they were categorized with the children when they were being buried. Children are normally seen as weak and helpless. This is what Choy was trying to express. Women had just as little power as children, and women were treated like meaningless objects as when they were buried alive. The children and women were buried alive, but not the men. Men were more respected than women, that's why men were just buried alive. I think Choy uses this example as gender roles, as women were seen with children all the time. This is because as part of a family, it was the woman who'd spend more time with the kids and take care of them, whereas men were out providing for the family and protecting the family. A final example that Choy uses expresses the lack of education that females had over males and the gender roles of both females and males. Choy writes, "The father taught the boy how to survive, how to fight, how to labor in mills, how to avoid bad luck." Here the boys are taught to survive, fight, labor, and avoid bad luck, but in the novel it never mentions a girl learning these skills. This is because the boys' development was more important than the females, and society felt that women weren't able to learn skills as quick enough or as efficient enough as males in order to protect themselves. Society felt that men were on a different level than women. This also brings gender role into play. Stereotypically back then, men were seen as the protectors of the family, and women were seen as housewives that cooked, took care of the children, and did house duties. As a protector of the family, men had to learn these trademark skills for protection, such as how to fight, how to survive, and how to avoid bad luck. I think Choy uses this example to relate to today's world and how there's still some type of gender role where men still need to provide for their families in terms of income and stability. This shows inequality of gender because men were given more education to fulfill a greater role that involved more power and intellect, whereas women were not given as much education as males because they were given such easier role in the family. In conclusion, I think that Choi's novel expressed how far society has come with feminism. The balance seems a lot more equal now. I think the novel still points out some inequalities today that needs to be balanced. This book helps the reader understand the inequalities in the past and how equality is very important. I personally enjoyed reading this book because it really helped open my eyes on feminism and the importance of living in a society that treats both genders as equal. I can compare today's society with previous generations and say that a lot of progress has been made, and this progress needs to continue.